Scott Hadden, Director of Mark Bratt Travel. Hopefully most of you know me. If not, my name is Ilona Alcock and I'm co-founder of Elevate Greater Manchester. Now, in most of the videos that you'll have seen so far, you'll have seen me with a very plain blue wall behind me, which we do just to make our videos clear and easy. However, we felt that since we're not going to get out and about into the world for our travel updates, it was worthwhile having a slightly fancier background to make us at least feel that we've got some interesting scenery around us. Now, mine is shamelessly stolen from the default selection on Microsoft Teams, but I'm going to pass over to Scott first of all to explain where his was taken and a little bit about his friend that we can see in the background.
Yeah, I think thanks, Ilona. I think yours looks like it's probably North America, right? I think they buffalo in some Rocky Mountain scene. Bit difficult to see. This little fella here is a baby Parsons chameleon, which is one of the largest species of chameleon. This was taken in an arboretum in wonderful Madagascar, in Ranamafana, which I think means hot springs, which it does have hot springs in the middle of the rainforest. It's an incredible place, and I was just very lucky. The babies are all this beautiful orange colour, which just sort of stems out beautifully against the green leaves. So I'm just completely showing off, but why wouldn't you have a little chameleon on your shoulder if you can?
Absolutely show off and say, like, we are all super keen, I think, to be seeing exciting things from around the world at a time when we're back in lockdown. Like, not even our zoos are open at the moment for us to be able to go and see those things. So starting off on that bit, we are back in another lockdown. Last time we spoke, we were talking around travel corridors, constantly changing restrictions, countries in, countries out, whether you had to isolate, what was happening with testing, lots of different things going on. We're now in a situation where in some ways it's easier because it's one rule and that's relatively clear, but obviously for somebody working within the industry or anyone looking to travel, that is not the positive news that we wanted to hear. So can you just quickly run through what the rules are in this current lockdown? I appreciate they will be slightly different depending on where you're based in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, sure. So obviously for England, it's back into a global travel ban, except for exceptional circumstances. So they are allowing travel for business and educational purposes. The rules are slightly different from Wales and Scotland. I focus more on England because we have more we do have some customers in Scotland, but most of our customers are in England. So yeah, so England has global travel ban, less restrictions from some of the other destinations. Obviously, that's in part because their national lockdowns either have never happened or are at a different phase. So the travel ban coincides with the UK lockdown, which is obviously due to, from what our understanding is, expire automatically on the 2nd of December. So either, I'm guessing, there has to be, we are all allowed back out to play for Christmas, or there will have to be an extension, and they haven't made an announcement on that. So if you are away or left the island before the lockdown came in, then you are entitled to continue with your holidays as normal, and the travel corridors there would still apply. So if you're on a country on a travel corridor, then you won't need to isolate on your return, as my understanding. So the travel corridors still exist. So if you are, say, in Antigua and come back, then you will be allowed out in line with national restrictions. Obviously, if you're in a different country or a country that's been removed, and some countries have been removed, Germany's been removed, and Denmark was the first country to be removed outside of the Thursday announcement because of the perceived risk from this new potential COVID strain, then you would need to isolate. So some people may even decide to extend their stay, and they're entitled to do that. They need to be careful of flights. Most of the airlines now have made their move on whether they're going to continue flying or have stopped. So my advice is, if you're looking at this from a beach, then think twice before doing it and check whether or not you're going to get home. Otherwise, you might have a even longer stay, because I think most of the airlines that are stopping are not going to recommence flying again to the 11th of December. So I think potential worry for customers is what's going to happen at Christmas, and if the extension comes, will flights remain, and will tour operators and travel agents be happy to have those bookings in place with their risk? We're having to certainly speak to people about trying to get extensions for them on deadlines, because until there's clarity about what's happening on the 3rd of December onwards, I think, I don't want to scare people, but potentially if there is an extension, then you could see more cancellations. And I feel that, everyone needs to manage their own risk on whether or not they're happy to leave that booking in place.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's not about scaring people. It's just we've lived with this for such a long time. Well, it feels like such a long time. We're still only in a matter of months, but we know that what's planned isn't necessarily what's going to happen. Where we think some restrictions might end and others come in, that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, we'd absolutely reiterate that any choices, whether to stay put, whether to move, or kind of extend holidays, you do have to be kind of very careful and check those restrictions. In terms of business travel, obviously that's still allowed. Is that allowed for anything so long as we say it's business? Have they given kind of any guidance, or is it literally just that's on the list of exceptions?
Yeah, not too much. I mean, obviously, not getting into the political landscape, but all of these legislation pieces are pushed through at short notice, given the state of the place. So I think whatever side of the political fence you sit on, all governments are having to make decisions very quickly, and therefore, because of that, the detail of a normal, this is how legislation is going to look for 3 or 4 years, is perhaps not as detailed. As it sort of stands, it's basically, essential travel, which they deem to be business and education. My understanding, of course, is whether this is being policed or not, I don't know. It's certainly not within the airline's requirements to ask you why you're traveling. So I think probably the bigger risk is more, actually being prepared to, travel without insurance, because your insurances would be voided and stuff like that. So I don't think there is a list of what is approved or not approved, and I don't think you will be asked for any documentation, certainly by the airlines, because they're not the border force. They are a commercial operation whose job is to fly you from A to B. But I think the thing to think about is, if you are traveling for business, like any trip at the moment, are you insured to take that trip, and what would happen to you if you fell ill or slipped over or got COVID or whatever when you're away? And I think if you don't have a legitimate reason, you might get there, but you may find that if you do need any help for any reason, that you might be having to pay for that out of your own pocket, because your insurance company would probably ask whether you had a legal right to be on somewhere else.
It's a really important point to make there, because, obviously we encourage everyone to follow the current restrictions and legal requirements, to the letter. But when they are a little bit vague and they're coming out quite quickly, you are going to potentially find people in that slightly grey area. And I think it is really important to remember that we want you to be fully insured and safe in the places that you're going to. So just then moving a little bit away from lockdown and that stopped kind of physical travel. I know that you've been working quite hard on a couple of projects over the summer, so we're just going to run through a couple of those first. Now, I've spoken before about attending your virtual Zoom safari that you did back in July, I want to say.
It's either June or July.
Into one. I don't know when it was.
It feels about 4 years ago, but it wasn't.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it was
really was one of my highlights of lockdown. Safari is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and hopefully will be allowed out at some point to do that. But a really great experience to be able to see the Big Five from the comfort of my own living room. So can you let us know what we can expect on Sunday, and I'll share the link for people who might want to be able to join in the comments on this video.
Yeah, fine. So we've managed to secure a second virtual safari, a rerun. So it's back at the same reserve in South Africa. It's actually for my goddaughter's. It's a fundraiser for my goddaughter's school, actually. So effectively, yeah. So we go to a place called Changwari, which is a leading private game reserve in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. It is about the size of Liechtenstein. So whilst it is a private reserve, they wouldn't be able to tell you, for example, exactly how many animals they've got in the park. They know what species they've got, but the park is so big and the population is left to do its own thing, that, they probably know they've got roughly X lions, but not necessarily to the individual one. So you'll be joined by a team of rangers who will actually be going out and travelling across the landscape to try and find the animals. It's obviously, because it's particularly for a school, it is family friendly. You're encouraged to be able to post questions, so you can ask questions. So we had some great ones last time about whether who's faster, Usain Bolt or a rhino. And a spoiler alert is it depends what type of rhino. So it whilst obviously it's never the same as seeing it in the wild, it is a great way of seeing how the animals interact and how the rangers find them. And it's a little bit rough and ready and raw. It's the ranger with his iPhone zooming across the terrain in his 4x4. And I think what you'll also get across is just how amazing these guides and rangers are. One, both at spotting the wildlife and understanding the wildlife, but two, these are people that see this wildlife every day, and yet you can just tell they're completely and utterly in love with it. They're never bored of it and showing people it. And I think that's a wonderful part of any safari experience when hopefully people get to do it again. So it's Sunday at 2 o'clock. It's just by Zoom. So if you don't have Zoom, you can just download it. Tickets on this occasion are £10, which, as I said, goes towards a charity that helps supplement my goddaughter's school over in Warrington. But anyone, whether they're attached to the school or not, is more than welcome to join. And it's just £10 per connection. So it's, one on the sofa, 10 on the sofa, it's £10.
Wonderful. And of course, if it's 10 on the sofa, same household or bubble, please. We don't want anyone getting into trouble on those videos.
6 on a sofa or 10 if you're a big family. But, dogs are welcome and cats, it's very inclusive.
I'm going to bring my little kitty, inspire her with a few lions.
I'd be scared, yeah.
I'd like to say it is that real joy in being in those places that came through, whether you live there or you're zooming in for an hour. It is incredible to see these different landscapes and different wildlife. And you've obviously been incredibly fortunate in your kind of personal travel and what you do now professionally to have been to some incredible places. And I'm always scrolling enviously through your social media feeds at these incredible photos that come through. So I was really excited that I actually have the option to purchase some of these photos in the form of a 2021 calendar. So can you just tell us a little bit about that project and how people can purchase those?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously this is stemmed out of, it's been an incredibly tough year for everyone in travel. We've worked tirelessly hard. We haven't been able to furlough people when other industries have because we're working. And, I think every industry is full of passionate, talented people, but perhaps even more so on the passion side, that travel is filled with people that are passionate about traveling. And sort of echoing the safari experience, we genuinely get excited about putting people's holidays together, and then do they like it, and seeing people's Instagram feed and their feedback, it gives us it feels like more than a job, and we feel incredibly privileged not just to be able to travel ourselves for it, but actually to help people travel the world and do things they never thought they could do. So part of it, being completely honest, is just a way for us to, obviously bring in a small amount of money at the end of the year, but also just to hopefully inspire people and remind us that we're here and that we're ready and waiting. So we can't reveal the photos, but we're carefully selecting a real range of photos. So it'll be one different photo every month with a little bit of information, and we've got a few of a little bit of fun things and different things on there as well, just to get people Googling and looking stuff up. Because what we really like as a travel company is just to get people to say, recommending places that people have never thought of or never even heard of, and then we send them there and they come back and they're like, that is now literally my favorite place on earth, and 6 months ago I didn't even know it existed. And that is just because the world is so big, and certain places get all the highlights, and certain places are always often documented in a particular way. And what we also like is that there are very well-known destinations that you can go and do completely differently to everyone else. And you think of Dubai, for example, huge modern skyscrapers. Well, just UAE, 2 hours, half an hour from there, there's flamingos and there's wetlands and there's mangroves, and you can go hiking and you can see 2,000-year-old forts, and it's completely not what you'd expect from UAE. So even places like that, So hopefully the travel calendar will get people thinking. It will have a few little things to look up. And it's just been something for us to go, look, we've been frustrated this year not getting people away. So let's share some of our little favourite places of Earth.
It's such a positive pivot because, like you say, you know, you would have to sell a lot of calendars to replace the income that you have lost in this. You know, I would love to think we could sell as many calendars, but unfortunately, I think that's unlikely. But it is just that way of documenting that joy that you have in travel. And you know, what I've always loved when we've spoken about places is you can hit those big ticket items and that's great, but there's also a have you thought of this? And you know, I've had travel calendars in my house for the last few years. You know, my National Geographic one is currently mocking me every month when I turn it over of somewhere else I'm not allowed to leave the house to go to. But it is those big ticket items, those views that we've seen many times. So I'm really excited about having some kind of unusual travel pictures to be able to look at. Mine's already on order and I'm excited to have it. So again, for people watching, we will just drop the link to that in the comments of the video if people want to buy them. I believe you're producing them to order in the first week of December, so people have them in time for Christmas.
Yeah, that's the plan. Is we're also kind of like, we're mindful of waste, and you know, we're not Amazon, we're not an e-commerce platform. We're doing this as you know, special circumstances. So really what we want to do is push them out, see what the interest is, and then everyone that's ordered one will get one. Saves on waste. You know, it's yeah, we're not really replicating our income levels from selling lots of holidays with a few calendars, but sales are going well so far. And I think we've got like for every 33% conversion rate, which is a sort of, you know, a click nerd, then is
a click nerd. I'm going to use that. I love it. I work with Mel Hill as our kind of like freelance marketing.
She'll probably be disappointed with
She's going to love that, honestly. Like I live for a gold star from Mel for my click-through rate, so she will definitely be adopting that phrase. But I think it is just a testament to how much we want to support our local community, how much we want to support these businesses that, you know, we've watched you help so many people over the course of this pandemic, that it's an opportunity for us to give something back. And completely selfishly, it's because we're excited about getting back to travel again next year. So I know the third thing you've been working on is probably the biggest of the three projects, and something that will hopefully stay with the business for a long time. So can we reveal what work from there is going to be?
Yes. So yeah, so in the middle of a pandemic, when there's a global travel ban, the obvious thing to do is launch a new travel brand, because
why not?
You know, exactly. So basically, you know, the world of work is going to change. That, I mean, I think that was clear. And I don't think the pandemic has actually caused that change. I think it's just accelerated it. We have globalization, we have better infrastructure, and I think people are wanting a better balance and a more flexible split between work and life. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to work less hard, but maybe they'll work differently. So it could be a 4-day week, it could be a 7 a.m. start, it could be 11 a.m. start, whatever. You know, really as a world, we need to focus on outputs rather than telling people that we all have to be in the same place at 9 a.m. So I think that's a trend that's here to stay. So we've decided to help people then take that to the next level. Obviously, digital nomads have been well known for a while, and people working remotely from, you know, Bali and whatever. But I think now we've got a whole plateau of people above that, where perhaps they've got disposable income, they want to see the world, but historically they've been tied to the office. Well, we can now help them move the office to wherever they are. So work from there is a play on work from home. So the idea is it's going to be focusing on longer stays and combining working remotely with a holiday. So, you know, you could go to, let's pick Sri Lanka, which is the one we're sort of, you know, one of our sort of launch destinations. So you go to Sri Lanka, you get a little villa with a private pool, not as expensive as you think, and you live a bit like a local. As part of the package in Sri Lanka, you're going to have a local WhatsApp number, so you can speak to a local to ask little questions about what to do on a Sunday, or where to buy something, or where's the best, you know, coconut prawn curry. You'll also have access to, in certain parts of the world, co-working spaces, so you can work from the villa, or you can go down and meet other people in the co-working space. Want to be left alone to work? Fine, no problem. Want to be picked up at 5, you know, 1 minute past 5 on a Friday and taken away for a weekend to go and see a different part of Sri Lanka? Also no problem. Or it could be that you have 2 or 3 weeks work and then 2-week holiday on the back, because ultimately you've already paid for your flights there. All of these will vary around the world because of visa restrictions and obviously price points as well. We want to make this affordable for a lot of people. So as I said, we're not going after, you know, mega buck private villas that no one can afford. This is going to be, you know, the ability for people to go and clear their mind. We might even do some Wi-Fi free escapes where it's all about detoxing and maybe doing some blue sky thinking. But ultimately, we see this as being a great way of encouraging people to travel and maybe extend the holidays. So like, yeah, they will be working. Yes, they still have to deliver, but what a great way for a business to reward their staff or bring in the best talent by saying they actively encourage them to spend 1 month a year out of the country working amongst people in a different culture and soaking that culture up.
It's fantastic, and that for me, it just draws together so much of what I love about travel. And I think you're absolutely right that, you know, the pandemic's a catalyst for more flexible working. There was a lot of companies who didn't think they could adjust to working this way, who have done. I'm not saying it's been easy and there haven't been issues along the way, but we've managed to deal with it and adapt. And we're seeing more and more people talk about, you know, what the output is. So for me, when I go to another country, I want to spend as much time there as possible, engaging with the people who live there, who know about their country, learning about it and seeing different things. And I think sometimes those holidays that, you know, that 2-week escape to go and sit on a beach is because we just literally want to get outside of the office and go somewhere that's really easy. And actually, if our day-to-day isn't as constrained by being in the office, then, you know, maybe we are up for something a little bit more adventurous. And to be able to actually go and work alongside other businesses is an incredible opportunity. And, you know, because we are thinking a little bit more sustainably, we're thinking about, you know, our carbon footprints, we're thinking about, you know, the cost that we're going to invest in things, then actually, you know, if you are going to do that long haul flight, to be able to do that over a much longer period of time makes a lot more sense. That it's like, well, rather than flying there, spend 2 days travelling on either side, end up with 10 days or so in the country, whistle stop tour of things, and then back home again and straight in the office jet lagged on the Monday morning. To be able to spread that over, you know, say your 6 weeks, spend some time working, spend some time travelling, it starts to make a lot more sense and hopefully get a lot more from it. In terms of speaking to employers, have you had kind of a bit of an uptake of people who really see the benefit to their staff in being able to spend time in those other cultures?
So we've had some initial inquiry. You know, we've just sort of gone to our initial networks and sort of spoken to people, and I think there's two main markets for this. One is small business owners or you know, self-employed people, consultants who can potentially do their work from anywhere, and then of course it's the larger, you know, companies with employees that maybe can put this as part of their employee offering. We've actually been busy working on signing up a few products to get enough over the line to then to be able to sort of say, look, this is the concept and how it's going to work. So take-off's been really positive. Obviously, the second ban has meant we've been busy working again on cancellations and redatings and stuff like that. So it's been a challenge. But certainly we're going to push to get this sort of out there and a bit more vocal from sort of January onwards to start taking bookings, probably from Q2, when I think we'll start to see a little bit more normality, I hope, and a little bit more. I don't think the whole world will be open by Q2, but I feel like what will open will be a bit more certain, and it makes it easier to sort of plan these slightly longer trips.
Yeah, we are, of course, all keeping our fingers firmly crossed that this vaccine's working and that we're at least kind of, you know, protecting some of the most vulnerable people by the time we get into spring, and that we can start to make this something that works. And whilst, you know, there are obviously industries that have been, you know, decimated by the pandemic that are really struggling, we're also hearing, you know, the businesses who are doing really well, you know, a lot of tech platforms, your e-commerce, a lot of things that are just kind of almost going on as normal, which seems bizarre in these times. But, you know, for those people who've had a incredibly busy year, not being able to travel, something like this is a really nice opportunity. I think once we do start getting back out there, to be able to spend a bit more time away and immersing ourselves in new places.
I think the other thing is that because the world has felt less certain is, why would you want to book everything yourself and run the risk of not getting a refund out of another country or spending hours and hours and hours on the phone when you can have someone, you know, that offers 24-hour support, everything's there in your app, you can message people in the app, you know, we've woken up and changed people's plans overnight because of natural, you know, issues or whatever. Like, why would you in a time of uncertainty decide to take that level away, particularly when ultimately, you know, it's not a business trip because you're not necessarily working in that country in terms of like with people there. You're taking your UK work with you. You still want to be able to switch off at 5 o'clock and dip in the pool or walk down to the beach or walk around the market. So have that safety net of someone back home making sure everything's going to go okay. So I actually see, you know, really bright future for the travel industry. I think it will be a reset. I think obviously some parts of it will be in decline for longer. I think people are going to think differently about what they want from a travel experience, but I feel probably like a lot of industries, you know, there are a lot of industries that will have to change because the world needs them to, whether they want to change or not. You know, we need to, you know, it's not about being you know, we need to be mindful, like you said, that we have a carbon footprint, and flights obviously contribute that. So if you can go, well, I'm going for 6 weeks instead of 2, well, you know, your carbon footprint per day is reduced. Hopefully when you're living in another country, I feel like people will hopefully reevaluate what's important. And so much of the stuff we have here, we don't need. You know, we choose to have it, and that's fine, and we're allowed to choose to have it. But what I found when I've done my own traveling is I probably have an average carbon footprint, even though I do a lot of traveling, because actually I'm not a huge consumer of a lot of other stuff, because I've really realized that other stuff wasn't that important to me, you know. So I'm focusing on things that are, and I feel that you can become a happier person by sort of working out the things that really, really inspire you.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why we travel, isn't it? That when people come back, that it changes. It gives you time away from something to reassess what you're doing, to see how other people live, and what's kind of more important. And I'm super hopeful that is what we're going to get back to in 2021. So just going to wrap up there on that nice positive note of travel coming back in 2021. So just a reminder for everybody watching, there is a Zoom safari this Sunday afternoon, which is the 15th of November at 2 o'clock. So we'll drop the Eventbrite link to that in the comments. Calendars are now on sale, which will be produced in the first week of December. So again, we'll drop that link in, get yours ordered, and you will hopefully have it there in time for Christmas and to start planning ahead to 2021. We will, of course, keep you posted on the Work From There initiative, let you know once those projects are up there. If you individually or you within your organisation think it's something that you might like to find out more about, then obviously do get in touch with Scott and I'll